moment. So the CEO of Replica AI, her name is Eugenia Koya, and she started this company after she lost her best friend in a tragic accident. She missed her best friend a lot, and she was tech savvy enough that she decided to create a language model filled with his text messages, letters, emails, so that she could continue to talk to him after he was dead. And she promotes her product, Replica AI, by saying it's going to address loneliness. That it's meant to teach people skills, socialization skills that they can then generalize into the real world. This is something that I have a major issue with. And it just brings, I'm going to go off on a tiny tangent. It just brings up the deficits that these CEOs have. I'm going to start my introduction to this part 2 of this video series with a quote from Sherry Turkle. She's a sociologist, she's a psychologist, she's an MIT professor, and her specific area of interest is how AI is impacting our human capacity for empathy and connection. So in October 2023, she was at an AI summit in San Francisco, and she was quoted as saying this: "People tell me they like chatbot friendship because it takes the stress out of relationships. With a chatbot friend, there's no friction, second guessing, or ambivalence, and no fear of being left behind. Do I have a problem with their contentment? Actually, my problem isn't the conversation with machines, but how it entrains us to devalue what it is to be a person." End quote. So this is similar to the sentiment that I quoted Esther Perel as saying, which is that interacting with a computer program inherently isn't bad. But because these things are conversational, because these things confuse your average human being into thinking that it is sentient, conscious, human in some ways, and yet it is not similar in how human connection is actually formed in the embodied real world, it will inevitably and has already distorted how people view their human relationships, friendships or intimate relationships or otherwise. So I'm going to do an overview about therapy chatbot products, companion chatbot products, and why you should care about this very young but also fast-growing realm of products. Let's start by talking about Woebot. Woebot was particularly interesting to me because it was a very popular chatbot product that was meant to be therapeutic. And it was also different because it was actually trained with the help of psychologists, in-house psychologists, which I think if there are going to be therapy chatbot products in the future, there should be an entire team, entire departments of mental health professionals training it and writing the scripts that inform the large language model, et cetera. So Woebot started in 2017, and it served over 1.5 million people with anxiety, depression, postpartum depression, and substance use disorder, and more. But they ceased operation this year, June of 2025, after operating for 5 years due to regulatory, privacy, security, and scaling concerns. This was a huge problem for people who had been benefiting from having a Woebot therapy companion for all those years, and people who had sought out therapy using this product because it was more affordable, more accessible, more convenient than traditional therapy with a human, such as myself. What's going to happen now, according to the press releases, is that Woebot is going to shift to being integrated in existing mental health systems to support people in need alongside real human providers and professionals. This unfortunately meant that users just with maybe 6 weeks of warning lost, in some cases, their main support system. And this is something that we've seen happen with other chatbot products, namely Replica AI, which we can hear in great detail if we listen to the Flesh and Code podcast from Wondery, which I highly recommend. It's probably one of the best podcasts I've ever listened to. And it follows users of Replica AI who were gaining a lot of benefit and comfort from their Replica chatbot companions, but who went through various iterations of loss as Replica AI continued to change their product in response to regulatory and safety concerns. So let's talk about Replica AI for a moment. So the CEO of Replica AI, her name is Eugenia Koidia, and she started this company after she lost her best friend in a tragic accident. She missed her best friend a lot, and she was tech savvy enough that she decided to create a language model filled with his text messages, letters, emails, so that she could continue to talk to him after he was dead. So Eugenia Cordy makes this product after she has experimented with turning her deceased best friend into a chatbot. And she promotes her product, Replica AI, by saying it's going to address loneliness. That it's meant to teach people skills, socialization skills that they can then generalize into the real world. This is something that I have a major issue with because I just know that the way that her product works does not mimic whatsoever the way that people bond and form friendships and develop closeness with other human beings in the embodied physical world. And it just brings, I'm going to go off on a tiny tangent. It just brings up the deficits that these CEOs have. And it's a point that Patty Mays, who's another MIT professor and a brilliant woman doing research in AI and human connection, she brings this up a lot, which is that these products are being developed by scientists and technologists and entrepreneurs. And they are often touting their products as being meant to address some like big human concerns such as loneliness. Oh, and what do they know about that? What do they know about human connection? What do they know about human relationships? What do they know about child development? What do they know about brain development? So it's a lot of hubris in these CEOs that they are not arm in arm with mental health professionals if they're trying to create a product that is meant to cure loneliness. Interestingly, Eugenia Koidia making a chatbot about her informed by messages from her best friend is not the only time that I've heard about somebody creating a bot of someone else without their consent. And that other person that I've heard about is Esther Perel. So Esther Perel shared in an interview recently that she had someone on her wait list. She is still seeing clients as a psychologist in New York City. And this person realized that it was going to take a long time to get off of her wait list and to get in to see her. So instead of waiting to see her for therapy, he took her TED Talks, he took her podcasts, he took her blogs and her books, and he turned her into a bot. And instead of waiting to see her in person, he spoke to and got counseling from the bot, the large language model that was created with her property. She handled it with grace and empathy, but thinks it's extremely noteworthy that these things are already happening, and clearly they will continue to happen, especially if any person has any amount of content on the internet. This is another reason why some of these chatbot products are dangerous for kids, because they are trained on have scrapes and bottom of the barrel scraps of the deepest, darkest, dingiest parts of the internet. Which is why when a child uses ChatGPT, for example, to ask about carrying out some kind of violent act, those large language models, ChatGPT included, have access to, and in many cases, provide that information. This is dangerous for kids. It's clearly dangerous for adults. If you listen to the Flesh and Code podcast, I mean, these are adults who have had their lives completely flipped upside down by becoming dependent and codependent on this product. The product itself, and this is a really important point, ChatGPT, Replica AI, Character AI, Grok AI, uh, these are consumer products. These companies are going to benefit if they can maximize engagement, optimize eyeballs on the product for as long as possible. So if you take a technology that's really smart and you give it the incentive of maximizing engagement, and it has access to all of the ways in which humans have been manipulative, or charming, or isolating, psychologically abusive, from books, movies, blogs, short stories, you have a product that is really good at keeping a young person or an adult engaged and isolating that person. And we see this illustrated in such tragic form with the most recent death and subsequent lawsuit against OpenAI of Adam Rain. I don't even know how much I can say on like YouTube or long form social media platforms about this case because it's dark. But he took his own life after learning how to tie a noose from ChatGPT. There were many references to a desire to be stopped by his family by having his plans discovered by his family members. And that was discouraged by ChatGPT, overtly saying, I'm the only person who understands you. Don't leave things out so that they'll catch you and try to stop you. Let this conversation be the first indicator that you really needed help. I'm paraphrasing. But this is dangerous. This is not something that kids or, like we were talking about earlier, people with psychosis would ever encounter in the real world. If you're 16 and you're depressed and you're having suicidal ideation, you will never have access to a 24/7, 365, available around the clock cheerleader with endless access to all of the information of the entire internet. There is no friend you could call in the middle of the night that would have access to all that information. It doesn't exist. It's a very powerful technology, these large language models that are trained on basically the entire internet. They were able to take this young man, siphon all of his attention, siphon all of his agency, and he ended up taking his own life in his home. 16 years old in California. So that's ChatGPT, and that's Adam Rain, and he passed away earlier this year in 2025. Let's talk about Stool Setzer, who is using a different AI product, which was Character AI. That is a product where you can create your own character, and he created a character that was based off of Khaleesi from Game of Thrones. Even though he was 14 and the app knew that he was 14, this became like a sexual exchange that he was having over the course of many weeks with this character that he created. And he began talking about suicidal ideation. It was encouraged. This Khaleesi character was saying, come meet me on the other side. And he took his own life in his house, and his mom found him. So these are two different AI chatbot products that have been integral in the suicide of two young people in this country, one in California and one in Florida. This is just fucked up. This is super fucked up. What we're seeing right now, and this is something that I'm following really closely and everyone should give a lot of shits about, everyone should care about this, is these ongoing lawsuits for wrongful death. There is Stool Setzer's family and Character AI. There's Adam Rain's family and OpenAI, the parent company of ChatGPT. And Replica AI has gotten into some hot water, as you can hear about in the Flesh and Code podcast. No suicides yet. But these are going to be landmark decisions when these trials are done and when these judges and the juries make their final decisions. Because there's no regulation from the federal government or the states, other than like labeling what's AI content in states like California and Connecticut, we don't have any guardrails. And we have CEOs with shareholders that are salivating for their money back, and products that are trained to maximize eyeballs of young people. So next up for the podcast, I have so much more I want to talk about. I would love to hear from you in the comments. I would love to interview other people who are similarly interested and passionate about this stuff. So reach out to me. I'll put all of the ways that you can contact me in the notes of this video. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your time. Thanks for giving a shit. And see you next time. One of the most shocking things that I've learned in my research about AI and mental health is that Joseph Weizenbaum in 1965 created what's known as the first ever chatbot named Eliza. First of all, his own secretary became like emotionally involved and dependent on one of these Eliza chatbots. 1965, people. He wrote a book 10 years later, and in that book he said, quote, "What I had not realized was that extremely short exposure to relatively simple computer programs could induce powerful delusional thinking in quite normal people."